Hi Year 6, welcome to Lesson 4 of our Rainforest Layers work. We're heading up into the canopy today, so you're going to need your notepad and your pen. You know what's going to happen next. We're heading off to some videos to check out some more information about this higher level of the rainforest. Pause the video now if you need to go and fetch something.
The canopy layer of the rainforest is the thickest part of the rainforest layer. It can take one rain droplet 10 seconds to fall to the floor because there are so many leaves. This is the part of the rainforest layers that takes the most sunlight, blocking the rays from the understory layer and forest floor. The canopy sits below the emergent layer of the rainforest and above the understory. This is where monkeys swing from lianas and birds roost in the trees away from predators. Lots of different tropical fruit, like bananas and mangoes, grow in the forest canopy. There is plenty of sunlight to help the fruit to ripen and grow lovely and large. This abundance of fruit and leaves is the perfect habitat for bats, monkeys, squirrels, sloths, and tropical birds like toucans and parrots. The thick trees and twisting liana vines make the canopy layer of the forest the most crowded. The canopy layer is around 10 meters thick and prevents about 95% of sunlight reaching the lower understory level and forest floor. The canopy layer is even hotter than the understory layer because of the amount of trees and plants growing so closely together. It can feel a little claustrophobic.
Those species that survive this long may achieve the ultimate prize. They reach the canopy, the top layer. Some, known as emergents, even shoot out above the canopy, but all can now benefit from direct access to the sunlight and rain they need to survive.
I'm on a special aerial tramway which gives me a really unique view of the canopy. Life in the rainforest is found up here. The trees are dripping with epiphytes and rotting vegetation. Compared to the forest floor, it's really very bright. It's these conditions that allow such a diversity of life to flourish.
This is the Amazon rainforest. As millions of trees squeeze in to find light, they knit together, making a world of limbs and leaves 100 feet up in the air. This is called the rainforest canopy. Most of the animals and plants in the rainforest live in the canopy, so let's get to know the world's largest treehouse. Spider monkeys almost never touch the ground. They're so used to heights, they even wrestle in the treetops. It helps to have a tail that's an extra hand. Their strong and flexible tails wrap around trees. They even hang from their tails when eating. A gap between trees is no problem for spider monkeys. They grow up in the world's largest jungle gym. Not every canopy animal is an athlete. Sloths love to take it slow and hang out, moving on the ground if they really have to. It's scary crawling slowly when giant anacondas are around. Many animals use the canopy to stay away from big predators. The sloth has lots of take-it-easy tricks. Sloths can't even support their body weight with their weak muscles, but they don't need to. They just hook onto trees with their curved claws. No effort needed. This sloth's green hairdo comes from green algae growing on their fur. A sloth's fur is full of sloth moths, ticks, beetles, and much more. It's an itchy little world. The rainforest canopy has its own predators, like this swooping harpy eagle. One of the largest eagles in the world, it can carry over 20 pounds. While giant anacondas can't reach the canopy, tons of other snakes call it home. This green mamba is a great climber, and its venom can kill a man in under 30 minutes. Check out this vine snake. Vine snakes don't just look like vines, they act like them, bobbing back and forth as if they are blowing in the wind. Insects, frogs, and lizards don't know what hit them. Until the 1980s, we only looked up at the canopy. We're new to climbing up and exploring it. From tail-swinging monkeys to sluggish sloths, there's a lot to protect in the canopy. It's the green heart of the forest.
The canopy. Millions of leaves stretching in a vast, endless mosaic of green, each individual leaf exactly angled to collect the maximum amount of light. Many have a special joint at the base of their stalk that enables them to twist and follow the sun as it swings overhead. It's an isolated world, many of whose inhabitants are born here and will die here without ever leaving it. Insects are everywhere. There seems to be no limit to the variety of their shapes and their colors. Some prey on others, most derive their sustenance from the trees, collecting the seeds, sipping the nectar, sucking the sap, and munching the leaves. Weaver ants use the leaves as walls for their nests. Workers with their feet hooked on one leaf lock their jaws on the edge of another and haul the two together. While they hold the leaves in position, other workers use the colony's grubs as tubes of glue, gently squeezing them so that they produce threads of sticky silk which they weave back and forth across the junction. Eventually they produce an enclosed globe within which they can rear their young. The insubstantial green terraces of the canopy are the pastures of the jungle, and a multitude of creatures graze on them. These in South America are squirrel monkeys, but every jungle has its monkey troops that scamper with total confidence through the branches, fastidiously selecting the right kind of tree, the juiciest bud, or the particular shoot that most takes their fancy.
Hopefully, like me, Year 6, you've got plenty of information now about this canopy layer, the life that thrives in this level, and some of the plant life and some of the adaptations as well. I've got a list of things here which we can go through, and if you want to take additional notes as you're having a look at mine, then feel free to magpie as we go through them. Okay, so I wrote down that it was a primary layer that forms a roof over the other two layers. That's because there's a tight layer of branches that all link together, which does one of two things. It blocks out the sunlight to the layers below, but as you saw in the last few clips, it also enables monkeys, spider monkeys and squirrel monkeys and the likes to be able to climb very nimbly between one tree and another. Right up here at the canopy layer, then you've got lots of access to rain, bright sunshine. It's very exposed up here, but this is where the weather conditions can be seen. We've got smooth oval leaves that have stems that can rotate towards the sun for maximum absorption of light, which you heard in that latter video there, which is fantastic adaptation to show that the leaves can rotate, constantly being able to move to capture as much sunlight as possible to create as much energy. Lots of tangles of vines intertwining at this level, and it was densely packed and really quite claustrophobic at this top level. You might, if you haven't already mentioned epiphytes, you might want to mention the epiphytes up here, the smaller plants that grow on other plants and trees, absorbing the nutrients of the plants in the rainforest, but they do eventually send down their roots to the forest floor themselves. Up to you whether or not you include them here, or perhaps you include them in the layer below. You might have written about the strangler fig, or you might have included the strangler fig in your last layer, because actually epiphytes live in the understory and in the under canopy, as well as going all the way up into the canopy layer. So writing about epiphytes somewhere in your rainforest layers is important, but you can decide which layer you think you're going to write about it in. You might talk about how the trees have evolved their smooth bark to prevent the epiphytes from latching on as well. That's also relevant at this point if you do include that. Right up in the canopy layer then, we've got plenty of food and in the form of fruit, flowers. It was described that this was like the pastures of the rainforest, and a pasture is like an area where you can get lots of food. Whoops, the rainforest. So a pasture is somewhere where you graze or animals graze. And there's plenty of life up here. And that is why, because all the fruits, flowers and all the things that they feed on, the buds and the shoots and all the things that were mentioned in the videos, they're all available up in the canopy area. So most of the life lives up here as well. And then there were some examples of creatures, which I made a note of here. I mean, I've written monkeys, which is not particularly specific, but I could change that and write spider or squirrel, both of which were mentioned. Those monkeys that jump from tree to tree. Snakes, you might want to mention in particular. There was the vine snake that mimicked the vine movement and then attacked amphibians and so on. You might include the giant anaconda. That was also mentioned as a predator, but I don't think it lives in the canopy. I'm going to take that one out. It said vine snakes, and there was a tree snake as well. They're the ones that live in the canopy. The anaconda was mentioned because the sloth was often found on the floor, and it said it could escape the anaconda if it went up into the tree. So I'm going to put sloth in there as well. Those slow-moving creatures, you might mention a little bit more about some of them. There were parrots, there were toucans, bats as well, hummingbirds, tree frogs. There's such an abundance of life up here. If you just put some examples, you might want to put it in a simple list, or you might want to write a little bit more detail if you were particularly intrigued by some of the creatures that we saw. Okay, so like in the last layers, you're going to need some useful sentence openers, and prepositional openers are going to be really useful: above, located, within, and so on. But also you might want to start thinking about using some verb choices: growing here, or housing a great diversity of species, or something along those lines might be useful to you. Equally, if you've got a particularly interesting fact, you might start with an adverbial like interestingly or amazingly. Equally, you might use some conjunctions here to develop and add further points to your writing. Okay, so there's a modelled right here for you, and you can see I've highlighted some words in different colours. That's to help you with some of the technical language you're going to need. We've got an orientation sentence here, which just explains what this passage of writing is about. So we need to mention that this is the canopy. And down here we've got our blue sentence, which is our link sentence, so that we know what we're leading on to in our final paragraph. We've got lots of different openers: as a result, additionally, amazingly, due to the fact, within this layer. Lots of fronted adverbials, conjunctions and so on that link our ideas together. And thinking about the way the ideas have been linked together, listen to how those sentence openers work to join ideas up. Words like plentiful, species, access, proximity, abundance, inhabited, enables, absorb, these are all technical words. I put in brackets there the umbrella of the forest because it's a sort of metaphor that's being used to describe how the canopy is often referred to. If I read it together then, hopefully you can hear how the ideas link, and it doesn't sound too much like a list, but more like a passage of writing that you are interested in. Containing 80% of all rainforest life, the canopy is inhabited by an abundance of animals and plants. Within this layer, the trees are in such close proximity that is sometimes known as the umbrella of the rainforest, and many animals can easily pass from tree to tree. Due to the fact that sunlight and rain can be directly accessed here, fruits and flowers are plentiful. Consequently, many animal species can be found. I think that probably needs to say here. And then a colon to present a simple list. Bats, eagles, toucans, hummingbirds and spider monkeys are amongst these. Just making some corrections to my writing, just as I like to see you doing with yours. As a result of being exposed to the full power of the elements, many trees in this layer have smooth oval leaves that allow the wind to pass easily over them. Additionally, many leaves in the canopy have developed special hinges at their base. This enables them to angle themselves towards the sun, therefore they can absorb maximum sunlight throughout the day. Amazingly, trees in this layer can grow as tall as 130 feet in height. However, this is only the penultimate layer. The emergent trees are even taller. Notice how I use a little dash there and an exclamation mark. So trying to use a full range of punctuation all the time within my writing. Have a look at another example on the next page. So same again, I've highlighted the technical language in red. We've got some openers in green and your link sentence at the bottom. If a plant reaches the canopy, then it has survived the fierce competition of the layers below and succeeded in reaching the sunlight. Up at this layer in the rainforest, there is an abundance of life. In fact, 80 to 90% of life exists and thrives at this layer, as there is direct access to the sunlight as well as plenty of fruits and flowers to consume here. Because the trees want to maximise sunlight absorption, many have developed special hinges at the base of their leaves. This enables them to angle themselves directly towards the sun as it moves across the sky. Since this layer is exposed to all of the elements, the leaves are also usually small and oval to allow the wind and rain to pass over them easily. Amazingly, trees at this level can grow up to 130 feet in height. However, there are some trees that grow even taller than this. These are known as the emergents, and they reach the topmost layer of the rainforest. So you can see how we've got lots of language all the way through that keeps it scientific, keeps it factual, writing things like in fact, keeps us to the details that we took in our notes, which is really important to refer back to those. Notice the difference as well in the way you're describing some of the leaves. So the leaves up here are small and oval, whereas the leaves at the lower levels of the rainforest were large and darker in colour to absorb maximum light because they didn't get very much, whereas up here the trees have many more leaves and they have plenty of access to sunlight. So a real difference in these layers, and hopefully that's what you're sharing in your understanding and in your writing. So good luck with your writing today. Once you've written it, have a look at this self-assessment. Have you checked it through and made sure you've written an orientation, so an opening sentence and a concluding link sentence to take us onto the emergent layer? Have you used the passive voice at all? So thinking back to what you learnt in the understory level, can you edit any of your writing to do so like we did before? Have you used plenty of technical language? And I've put a couple of examples there, abundance, proximity, and you can do the same when you're self-checking. Prepositional phrases to open sentences are really useful, and we've talked about where and how you might pop those in to develop your ideas. Explanation conjunctions, so explaining and linking ideas together, therefore, as a result, consequently, these things ensure that your work doesn't sound like a list because you develop your points and further explain them. And then, last of all, a full range of punctuation. Are you checking it through to see whether you can up-level and improve some of that? And if you've done all of that, you're doing a great job, and tomorrow we'll move on to the emergent layer and finish up. So we look forward to reading those. Good luck, Kids 6.